Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, thanks so much everyone for coming along. Possibly the last few days of everyone working as we kind of lead up to Christmas, so appreciate you making the time for this and for your interest in this programme, which we're very excited about and we're excited to tell you more about as well. What we'll do is we've got some slides obviously that I'll run through, giving you some information about what the programme's all about, and then there'll be time for questions. So please do put questions in the chat as we go through if you'd like to, and we'll make sure to come back to those. So we want you to leave here feeling like you know what this is all about, and if it's right for you, you're ready to apply. So there's a lot of names on this slide, not all of whom are in the room. Myself, I'm Kate Campbell, I'm the programme manager. We've got two cohorts for the Match Trade Grow programme, as you've no doubt noticed. And we're joined today by Tawfiq, who is our Scale Up Learning Manager, and you'll hear a bit from Toff later on. Abby, who's not here, will be the Trade Up Learning Facilitator. Did I get that right? Scale Up for Toff, Trade Up for Abby, and we've also got Alexa with us, who will be a grant manager on the programme. And again, we'll hear from Alexa and we'll get into the details around the grants and everything as we come to that. And we've also got the wonderful Louise Garner, who is our head of grants at SSE. So we're in good hands, hopefully, and in a good place to answer lots of your questions.
Just to say, we've had a comment about the sound being low. Is that an issue generally?
Thanks, Alexa.
No. Sorry about that, Carol.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if there's any I can do on my side there.
Hopefully you can crank up the volume or put transcription on.
Yeah, or maybe log out and then try to log back in and maybe reset it.
Thanks for alerting us to that, Alexia. I hope that works for you. Right. So what we're going to cover, just a brief introduction to who we are at SSE, the School for Social Entrepreneurs, a little bit about the Go London Partnership, who are providing, the funding and access to this programme, and then all about the programme, what we're looking for, what's the grant all about, and how you can apply. So very briefly, School for Social Entrepreneurs, our slogan, I suppose, is that we help people develop skills, strengths, the networks they need to tackle society's biggest problems. No short order, but we do this essentially through providing programmes up and down the country on various different kind of themes and focus areas available to different, people working in different areas. And we kind of, the way we work is through cohort-based learning. So there's a lot of peer support and interaction. It's not kind of learning through textbooks, it's learning by doing and going back into your enterprises and being able to, implement your learning day to day. And we'll hear again more about what that means for this programme as we get into it later on. And then the Go London partnership. This is a really exciting partnership. I mean, it's an enormous investment in youth sports in London. It's bringing in some really big players in the sporting world. So it's funded by the Mayor of London through the GLA. And it is a kind of initiative of the Mayor of London, bringing in London Marathon Foundation, Sport England, and also in partnership with London Marathon Events and London Sport. So some brilliant expertise in that partnership, and providing some great opportunities as well. Okay, the programme. Let's talk about the programme. I think, Toff, I'm going to ask you to give a quick overview of the objectives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to double check everyone can hear me okay? Yes, perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up. So the idea is that the program will challenge your organization to grow trading income over a 12-month period. So this could be or might be trading, which is directly related to youth sports and physical activity. An example of that could be contracts with schools or local authorities to deliver sports activity. Or it might be other trading activity. Other examples, it could include catering, events, clothing, and merchandise. But the main idea is that it needs to return profits, which can subsidize youth sports and physical activity. If the trading activity itself does not directly increase access for young people, then we're going to require at least 75% of any profits made from the trading activity will be reinvested to benefit young people, including young people from underserved communities or underserved communities, sorry, for at least 12 months after the end of the program. But the hope is that by strengthening your trading, irrespective of which program you're going to be on, is that you'll enable you to invest in young people for much, much longer. I'm hoping you're able see the diagram supposed to kind of give you an idea of what that could look like. But as I said, the aim here, or the program aim, is really to grow your trading base so that you can reinvest it in youth sports and physical activity for the young people, basically. So if we go to the next slide, I'll hand back to you, Kate.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and this is like, okay, you'll see that I'm really getting into my infographics game with this slide deck, and you might be sick of the sight of them by the end, but we're just trying to represent exactly what Todd's just described there in terms of how the program works. And this is kind of looking at it in a slightly different way. But, you know, essentially, we want to make an investment into your organization, which, and then skipping to the end goal is to increase access to sports for young people in London, right? So we want to work with people like yourselves who might currently be working in an organization working with young people in sports, or may not be, but want to deliver that kind of activity. And we want to enable you to do it. And I suppose the idea is that we're offering here a bit of an alternative to just the kind of direct grant where, you know, we might be able to give you a grant and you pay a coach for a year to work with young people, but at the end of that, you no longer have the grant and you have to find another way to pay the coach if you're continuing that activity. So what we're trying to do is help you develop a kind of, might be a new or existing product or service, which is going to return traded income for you, which you would then be able to invest in your kind of activity, which is helping young people get into sports in the long term.
Kate, can I just jump in there quickly? There's been some questions in the chat as to whether people need to be writing this all down or whether we can send these slides out after.
We will absolutely send the slides, don't worry at all. Yeah, we'll send the slides, and we'll also send the recording as well. And also guidance notes, all sorts of things. Yeah, we want you to be set up to do this. Thanks for that, Alexa. So yeah, and then the important thing to note as well in terms of, so we want to be as flexible as possible. We want to enable people to build up their traded income in lots of different ways. So, you know, you may already be an organisation, as we say, working in youth sports, and maybe you're just looking to develop that work that you're doing, or maybe generate more from traded income rather than grants. And that's a kind of quite direct route through the programme. But you may also be wanting to develop some trading activity which actually has nothing to do with youth sports. So you might have an underused space that you want to refurbish, and we're going to look at some examples of this in sort of later on, which would then return income through kind of events hire or whatever, which you would then invest. It might be merchandise, it might be developing your cafe. So really, we want to kind of offer that flexibility through this funding for you to be able to build up yeah, you know, an income stream for the long term, essentially. And then in this next slide, we've, you know, just drawn that out a little bit more about kind of your journey through the program and what that might look like. So, you know, when you apply, obviously we'll ask you to submit some plans. So like tell us how you'd like to increase your traded income, and what impact you want to have in youth sports as well. You know, if you gain a place on the program, what happens is you receive 20% of the grant up front, and we will absolutely have a whole section on how the grant works. So we'll get to that. So you can use that initial installment to start to develop this product or service, whatever it is that you're going to build up. And again, we'll look at examples of how the grant might help you to do that. You'll also obviously attend the capacity building learning program, which is going to, you know, increase your ability to, or your confidence in things like sales and marketing. You know, perhaps you're piloting a new service, and we're going to help you to do that. And then you'll kind of, as your trading income grows, you can continue to draw down further installments of the grant to really strengthen the product or service that you're developing, and then reinvest those products in the profits rather in youth sports. As I say, we're going to sort of dive into more detail and give you some examples as well of how that might work for different types of organizations. But then just to kind of go back to the sort of basic eligibility. And again, lots of you may have already read this on the website or in the guidance notes, but we're looking to recruit for 2 cohorts. Each cohort will have 15 people per cohort, 15 entrepreneurs per cohort. And the trade up level, we're looking for a current income of around 20,000. So they could be younger organizations. You know, you might be relatively recently established, and you need to be able to show that you can plan to increase your trading by at least 15,000. That's the amount up for grabs from the match trading grant. For scale up, yeah, the current income of at least 150,000. So this is more established organisations, and with a plan to increase trading by 25,000, which is again the amount that's up for grabs in terms of the grant there. So, you know, we expect most people that apply will have some track record of trading, but that might not be the case. And if you can show us really clear plans of how you do want to start trading, then we'll certainly consider that. You know, the kind of the main focus and the theme which runs through both programs is, you know, your desire to increase young people's access to physical activity or sports in London. So that's obviously got to run through, you know, your application as well. And in terms of those kind of getting into the more detail with the eligibility, so you may be an organisation that could be based outside of London. You might have activities that take place outside of London as well as within London. But what we want to see is, for the purpose of this programme, that all of your activities and beneficiaries that you're focusing on, so that would be your trading activity as well, would take place within London. And then you do also have to have the right to work. And we'll be circulating the guidance notes again after this, and there's a lot of FAQs about the eligibility and you know, specifics there, but obviously we're happy to answer questions as well. Worth mentioning as well that we particularly want to hear from certain priority groups. You know, at the School for Social Entrepreneurs, we're really keen to work with people with lived experience of some of the social issues they're trying to tackle. And this might be particularly true for members of the groups here, Black and minoritized communities, disabled people, care leavers, everyone you see on the screen there. So we just absolutely encourage people to apply. And again, at the end, we'll be talking about if you need any support, then we're happy to provide that as well. Okay, so I've got a few slides here with examples of who might apply. And again, I might have got slightly carried away, so we won't necessarily go through all of them. I might flick through a couple, but I've tried to kind of draw out some examples of different types of organisations, you know, and how the grant may help them to develop. So first up, we've got the example of a dance group, a dance studio perhaps. They want to introduce a new offering for professionals, so for adults, and they want to use those profits to subsidise access to classes for young people. So again, this is an example of developing trading activity, and the trading activity itself isn't focused on young people, but the impact ultimately will be to increase access to sports for young people. So they may use the grant to support their business development or to support their business manager to attend the learning programme. They might also support their time to develop and market their offer, run introductory offers for corporates, you know, generally pilot these new classes. It could fund a development worker to reach out to young people. And then yeah, ultimately we'd ask people to that 75% of the profits from these would be returned to support classes for young people as well. And then we've got another example here. Do you know what? I'm going to flick through this one and come to another one. A youth organisation. So we've got an example here. So a youth organisation, they may not be currently involved in providing physical activity or access to sports or anything at the moment, but they want to develop a holiday, you know, sports-based holiday club for young people. And the way that they want to do that and they want to build up that offer to both generate traded income for their organisation, but also with that profit they would like to subsidise places for young people. So in this example, the trading activity does relate to young people and to sports, and the impact is going to be able to subsidize low cost or no cost places for young people. So, you know, they may use the grant to pilot the sports-based holiday club. They might use it to support staff time to develop it, sales and marketing investment in that offering. They may use both the capacity building support and the grant itself to work up a kind of business plan to continue the work in the long term. So that's how it may work for an organisation of this type. And then here we've got an example more of an organisation developing trading activity which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with young people or with sports, but the impact will be on young people. So we've got the example of a cricket club. They've got an underused pavilion. They want to develop that space for events, parties, whatever it is, and they will use that profit to basically potentially set up a youth team, involve more young people in cricket. So, you know, they apply, they're successful, they receive that first grant installment. They might use that to redecorate the space, buy tables and chairs, things like that, and also develop their marketing. Then they'll work through us through the learning program to develop that offer and you know, develop their sales skills, set up a business plan and market it. As you know, the bookings start to come in and they develop their, you know, try to start the drawdown income, we'll match that income pound for pound with the grant, and enabling them to continue to develop that activity around the event space. And then ultimately, once that starts to turn a profit, they can reinvest those profits into their youth team, hopefully in the long term, as well as just for the lifetime of this program. So whistle-stop-tour, I hope that gives an idea of the types of programs and some examples there. I'm going to hand over, I think, back to Toff now to talk a little bit about our program and the capacity building program.
Great, thank you so much for that. And as we've heard, essentially the two different levels, we're going to have these two different levels. Essentially, Trade Up is much more for either smaller or earlier stage organizations, and the main focus is really main focus is to develop leadership skills, explore and test new ideas in terms of trading, and prioritize the creation of sustainable trading base to actually achieve the impact for the communities that we've just mentioned. And in terms of the scale-up side of things, really very much for established organization, and it's really to kind of amplify the trading activities by either entering or discussing entering new markets or expanding current ones. A focus on advanced leadership development, and seeking essentially to test ideas using those different topics. In terms of the way that this is going to be approached, it's very much going to be done in active learning, where we're going to try and bring in experts and witnesses to talk through some of those topics. But essentially, one of the biggest things for us, as some of you already know, is you're going to be learning from the people that are going to be in the cohorts. And in terms of what the program would look like, if you go to the next slide, essentially what we've got here is we're going to have a number of learning days, 8 learning days, 4 of them being in person and 4 online. We're going to also have what we call action learning sessions or action learning sets. Essentially, for those of you who don't know, it's one way to look at it is smaller group sessions where the main focus is to either solve a problem or challenge that you're going through, present an opportunity, and to figure out how to kind of get the best out of the opportunity, and also to develop leadership skills within this group. And you're going to do that with a smaller group within the cohort, and you're going to have an ALS facilitator. We're also, as I said earlier, we're going to give you access to not only experts, but also a diverse network of entrepreneurs throughout the program. And the biggest thing for us is to ensure that the space is going to be a space of collaboration, so that you're able to either develop, hopefully, new partnerships or long-term partnerships after the program. But the biggest thing for us is that for both of these programs is that you essentially bring your whole selves, because a lot of the learning will be driven by what you need and what are the challenges that you're facing. And we're going to draw that out of you through not only the interviews, but also at different points of the program, so that we tailor the program for you. Yeah, and that's it from me. I'll hand it back to Kate.
Thanks, Toff. And I'm just flashing the learning dates up here on the slides, as we've said previously, and thanks for prompting us on that. We will circulate the slides, and we'll absolutely be circulating the dates, especially if you do apply. And so I'm not flashing these up here expecting you to note them all down now. It's just to give you a kind of idea of the shape of the learning program, how it works, like what the expectations are in terms of attendance as well. So we've got basically, as Toff was saying, a mixture of in-person and online sessions. In-person sessions tend to run about 10 till 4, so pretty much full day session. Online sessions are kind of morning until 1:30. And the ALS sessions are morning sessions as well, so as they're online, and then we'll have a celebration event in person next year. So that's just to give you an idea. You're meeting, obviously over a year, like roughly once a month. And in between that will be kind of opportunities for support in other ways as well. So that's just to give you an idea of the shape of things. And as I say, we'll circulate these. So right.
Okay, before we go on to the next bit,
Yeah.
I wonder whether it'd be useful to just go through some questions I couldn't answer in the chat, if that's okay.
Thank you, Alexa. Yeah, I was just having a look through as Toff was talking there. So
Okay.
I noticed, Alexa, you've managed to answer lots of these already.
So we've got Chloe Booth saying if someone has a Go London grant that's until March 26th, what's his sort of eligibility there?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. You are eligible to apply as long as you're not in receipt of both grants at the same time. So you're just about okay if your grant from Go London March 26th.
And then another one I wasn't sure about was, will this be running again in 2026?
It all depends on the success of this program. So we don't have firm plans yet, but we're hoping to continue to run this program. But at present, this is the only chance to apply right now.
Thanks for that question, Sam. And Mark Lancaster said, if successful in applying, when will that first payment be available, the first instalment? And I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, I think, we generally will start to issue with grant paperwork pretty much as soon as you have a place on the program and, you've gone through that onboarding stage. And I think I'm pretty confident saying that as soon as you can return that grant paperwork to us, we'll be trying to get those first payments out. So with the first session starting in end of March, payments likely in April.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Toff has answered a question there about the learning program, which is great. And I think we're up to date with questions so far.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. That's super helpful. And I'll continue to monitor the questions while we hand it over to you to talk about match trading.
We've got someone in the waiting room.
That's right, just let them in. Don't you really focus on the slides.
Okay, so I'm focusing pretty much on just the grant and growing activity on this sort of timeline. So next slide, please. Okay, so firstly, although the grant is obviously a good incentive and very useful, it's worth thinking about our offering as kind of primarily a learning program, and there's two parts to that. So people need to be really ready to attend the learning program because that will help you to grow your trading. It's also important to the cohesiveness of the cohort and for everyone learning from their peers. It's peer learning, so the peers need to attend and be there. So that's really key. And also you need to be the person who's got strategic control over what you're doing. So often that's a CEO or founder. With really large organizations, that might not apply, but you need to show in your application that you're the one that is kind of leading on this, has got the responsibility and the drive to put these trading plans into action. Okay, next slide, please. So there's a few bits around the grants. We will maybe ask you for a few things around your policies, safeguarding. There might be some rules around bank accounts. Because you'll be large organisations, that's generally quite straightforward. We also have finance checks at the end of the programme to evidence to our funders that we check the information that people submit us about their trading increase. On to the next one, please. So I think we've talked about this already, about the eligibility. And one of the questions that someone asked was, when we're looking at the threshold for eligibility, all income counts. So if trading is relatively new to you, or you've not traded in this area before, and you're mainly had lots of grants before, then that's okay. That's not an issue. So in terms of legal structures, it needs to be a not-for-profit organisation, and there's a list of the kind of organisations that meet that criteria here. So that's CICs, community benefit societies, community amateur sports clubs as well, charities, and you might also be an organisation that has what we would call social enterprise clauses, which is a social purpose, restriction on your profits, and an asset lock as well. So yes, Kate, if you're a company limited by guarantee, but you have those three things in place, then that means you're okay to apply. And if you've got any questions around that, we could maybe follow that up by email afterwards. Okay, lovely. Next slide, please.
There you go.
Thank you. So a bit more about match trading. So the idea is that you, as Kate has discussed, your grant is divided into 5. You get your first instalment once you've signed your grant paperwork. That is your grant. That's yours to keep. Then every quarter or every 3 months, we get in touch with you to ask about how your trading has gone. And we match that increase in trading pound for pound. The important bit there is increase. Sometimes that's sort of missed when people are getting their head around what match trading means. It's so say your income in the previous quarter. So we're looking at, say, January to March 24 compared to January to March 25, just an example. If someone's income in that baseline year was 10k, then to get a grant instalment of 5, they'd have to go over and above by an additional 5k. Hopefully that makes sense. And then each quarter I get in touch with you, or your grants manager would get in touch with you and ask you to update how the trading has been going. And sometimes people don't get the match until the end of the program. That's because things can take time to come to fruition in terms of trading plans, and that's fine. You're not going to lose the grant. It can be all bunched up at the end, and that's relatively common. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of what trading means, this is not comprehensive, but it's obvious things like sales of goods and services, whatever that might be events or sessions, workshops, anything that you deliver generally. Sales of goods and services to other organisations as well, so that could be contracts, commissions. Sponsorship and membership fees are generally considered if it's kind of proportionate to the amount of money that someone's giving you for the transaction. So if they're getting something in return, and we're always happy to talk to people about that. And rental income is fine as well. And the next slide, please. So in terms of what the grant can go on, I'm not going to read this all out. That would be incredibly boring, and you will be getting these through. But generally, it's all the things that you'd normally expect to see in terms of delivery, like core costs, staff costs, all that sort of thing. There are some restrictions on physical assets worth over 1,500 because there's rules around that. Vehicles and buildings generally can be an issue, and there's a few other things in there that's worth checking if there's something in particular that you want to spend the grant on. And this will all be in the guidance notes, and we will send these out. Okay, next one, please. Okay.
Thanks. That's thanks for that, Alexa. It's super helpful.
Okay.
And no, there were a few questions in the chat.
Questions, yeah.
These are the last couple of slides, so I'll just really quickly run through the application process, and then we'll take some questions. So
can I just add something as well?
Yeah, go for it.
So somebody was asking about whether it's an increase in the only the, whether you have to increase all your income or just the trading income. We're only looking at an increase in your trading income. And I think for large organizations, it's also important to say that we sometimes look at the whole organization. Usually we look at the whole organization when it's a small organization for trading increases. Sometimes if you've got a charity, a trading subsidiary, we might look at the trading subsidiary or the charity and the trading subsidiary. And sometimes, particularly for large organizations, and particularly for this, where we're looking at you submitting your trading income, we might just look at an area of your income. So if, for example, you're running a football club and you've got membership fees, which are ongoing, you've got activities and events that you're already doing, but you want to increase your activities on weddings, for example, and you want that to be the focus of this work, and you've got your business leader who's leading on that activity, and that's what they're focusing on, they've got control over, we're very happy to restrict looking at just the trading for that and how that profit is going to fund youth coaching. So particularly for big organizations where you might have other contracts and other trading which are nothing to do with this, we are quite flexible, and our approach is to support you. This isn't punitive. So our aim is to help you grow a trading stream that you can reinvest into youth services. That's our primary focus, and we will work with you in setting up a structure that works for that. So so if you want to talk to us about what that might look like beforehand, that's fine. Otherwise, we will talk to you about it when we through the interviews and when you come on the program as well. So we know we've got some very big organizations who want to apply. We're not expecting that suddenly you divert 75% of your total profits into trading for youth work. We're looking at particular growth of a particular trading stream that you might be looking at. And this is a learning process for us as well. We're really happy to work with you to kind of make that reasonable for you.
Thanks, Louise. Yeah.
Will the funds consider coach education and development costs? Mark, would you just explain that a bit more? So you can definitely use if you were using your profits to fund coaching and education development costs, for example, outreach work to schools to develop kind of income for, to develop interest in, my daughter plays rugby, so I always go to rugby, but like to go and do that work in schools and bring people in, that's great. That's exactly what we'd like to do. If you're talking about using our funding directly to do coaching and education development work, yes, you can also do that as well. And we'd hope that would be supporting you developing your trading increase. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you very much, Louise. Yeah, I think it's a really good point to make. We're looking here to be supportive, and our approach is that we will be as flexible as we can be as well. As Louise was saying, the end goal is to increase access to sport for young people, and we want, yeah, exactly, to support you to do that in the way that works best for you and for us. And you will get a lot of support from your individual grant manager as well in one-to-one meetings and things. So, we're gonna help you with that every step of the way. I'll very quickly just.
Sorry, Kate, just because Kate's asking a question again, I'm not sure if I'm getting completely the point. I think what we're saying is that what we try and do with match trading grants is make them as flexible as possible. So one of the joys of match trading grants that people have really loved about match trading is that it will feel to you like unrestricted funding, even though in fact it's not. It is restricted funding because you have to spend it, you have to work it, you have to link it to your learning and development and developing your trading activity. But it's going to feel to you like really flexible. So there are some things which you can't spend on. We have some restrictions on assets and kind of like putting major assets in. But we definitely would want to help you on small refurbishments. We have some problems over planning permission, but other than that, it's fairly flexible. You can spend it on the cost of your business development manager. You can spend it on looking at getting insurance for a new area of activity. We're not heavy about the actual spend, unusually for grants. What we want to see is the outcomes in terms of developing your trading activity, and then again that going on to supporting young people. So one of the big feedbacks we get about trading is what a joy it is to get a bit of funding that feels unrestricted, certainly very flexible to the organisation.
Thank you. Yeah, why don't we we'll stay on questions now, and I'll run through the application process. So I'm having a look through the chat because there'll be things that we've missed, and I have to say I'm sorry, I completely misinterpreted a question and confused everyone earlier. Chloe had asked about that she had a Go London Foundation grant that runs until March 26, and I completely misread that at March 25. I'm afraid, yeah, those grants would be overlapping each other, so that would make you ineligible, unfortunately, Chloe. It would need to end in March 25 with this grant starting effectively in April 26. So apologise for confusing everyone there for a moment. So just to clarify that, people have asked about the deadline, which is the 14th of Jan, and which I'll get onto. I'm just going through. I think, have we answered? I think, Kate, we've answered your question about being a company limited by guarantee. Alexa covered that. Someone asked about the grant period, which is for 12 months. So it's a 12-month period which runs alongside the capacity building program, which is March 25 to essentially March 26. So can two people from the same organisation apply and participate in the programme? Thank you for this question. It's a really good one. It's one we get asked a lot. No is the straight answer. So we like to work directly with the entrepreneur, right? Obviously, we're supporting your enterprise, but we're also trying to develop you as an entrepreneur. And for that reason, our preference is to have one person apply, and we go all the way from application through interview, through the learning programme, developing you as an entrepreneur. On this program, there may be opportunities where for certain sort of sessions which might be focusing on certain topics, you can bring along someone from your organisation who is really going to benefit from that. So, you know, your finance manager can come and hear about financial strategies, and your marketing person can come to a topic session which is on marketing and sales. We're working out exactly how that will work, obviously, in terms of, you know, literally the capacity of how many people we can have in the room and things, but we are going to try and offer flexibility there. But no, essentially we'd yeah, and if two people, I mean, we have had the situation before where two people apply for a program, and you know, like, but you would be kind of essentially pitted against each other during the application process, which, you know, likely would not be something, well, may not be something you'd want to do. I think I'm working through these questions, and I'm just so.
Can I just answer Kate's asked question, then sent me just a direct message, and I thought it'd be useful for everybody here. So you get 20% of the grant up front. We call it a grant in advance. And that grant is for you to kind of kickstart things going. You don't have to pay that back. So if you didn't make any trading increase, you won't have to pay that money back as long as it's been spent legitimately on your project. So that is kind of guaranteed income. However, the way it works is we match the whole amount of the grant. So what we do, and it's a bit complicated, is that we take a bit of that back each quarter. So once you've got a bit of grant, once you've been paid grant, we don't take it back. If your trading goes really well in the first 6 months and then drops off a cliff, and overall at the end of the year you haven't increased your trading, if you've had the money, we're not going to take it back off you. Grant in advance, we won't take back off you. But we do expect that by the end of the programme to claim the full amount and the final payment, that you've increased your trading by the full amount of the grant. It gets clearer once you start on the programme. We explain it all in a bit more detail and it gets clearer, but the idea is not to kind of be clawing back money. We are not ESF or any other horrendous funders like that. We don't claw things back unless you're fraudulent or something disastrous. But generally speaking, if you've spent the money on the project properly and we've given it to you, then you can keep it if you've claimed it.
Thanks,
I hope that answers your question, Kate.
We've had a question as well. Sorry, yeah, Kate, do shout if it hasn't, and I'll start just opening it up and we'll ask people to shout out questions as well in a sec. But a question also from someone, I'm just going to read this out and hope that Alexa, Louise, you might jump in on this. The company currently work with a charity which supports our funded sessions. However, we generate income ourselves via our limited company. So can this person apply doing work within the community? Sorry, hold on a minute. I'm just interpreting the question in my mind.
So I think the answer is,
yeah, until we've registered.
When you apply, if you're not actually yet registered as a KIC, you need to be very far along that line. We're not going to fund things which don't fit that not-for-profit criteria. But if you want to look at previous activity or demonstrate that you've had that amount of income under a previous legal structure, but it's the same activity and project, that's fine. So sometimes we have people who start off as a company limited by shares, they start developing their work, they register a kick a few months ago, maybe, but we're saying, okay, well, we can see that it's the same work, you've just changed your legal structure. That's absolutely fine. I hope that answers that. I think that's the answer to that question.
Yeah, thank you, Louise, I think. Let me just open it up. Please shout out any other questions. And I think if we've seen the questions already been answered, that have already been answered, they're all super useful. If you're wondering if it's a silly question, it's not. Probably other people are, you know, wondering it as well. So please do. I need to make sure I can see people.
And I just,
Yeah,
just to say, so one more kind of point I think that's come up. So the first 20% is guaranteed,
yeah,
but yes, the rest of the match is dependent on you increasing your trading. And we do have people who don't draw down the full match trading grant. We very much are here to support you to do that, and we would aim to help you get to that point. But yes, it is not only the first 20% would be guaranteed. Everything else is dependent on you demonstrating an increased match.
thanks. I also think we should make the point as well, we've talked a lot about the reinvestment of profits, you know, and having a requirement that 75% of profits are reinvested and things like this. And obviously we do want you to do that. And we also have a piece of work where we'd love to check in on you for the 12 months after the program, where we ask about your work with youth sports. And that's for, you know, that's for us, that's impact measurement. It's understanding the impact of our grant. We're not going to make you pay back parts of the grant if your, you know, profits have dropped off or your work has changed. Again, that's us collecting, you know, interesting information for ourselves about the grants. Again, this is about being supportive, not being punitive. So just in case people are worried about that condition there. But, you know, what we're hoping is that everyone who's applying, that's a genuine desire of theirs, is to work with young people in sports. And so it's not going to be, you know, a difficult condition that we're trying to place on people. Right. Do feel free to shout out or put up your hands virtually or whatever if you have a question.
Can I ask a question, or do I have?
Go for it.
Yeah, yeah. We are a youth club, and we want we run many programs. But one we want to establish is the build and earn the bike. And I was wondering whether this is from scratch, that you know, it's a new trade. So I was wondering whether this fits the grant application.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it does. So you know, you've got a new area. I think this is what we want to encourage. Basically, you may be an established organisation, but you've got something new you want to try, and we want to give you a supportive environment in which you can try that and pilot it. And yeah, that sounds good. Basically, yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, as long as you just a tip for the application, please do make clear, you know, the end impact that you want to have and how that will impact young people in sport, through sports in London.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there's a couple of extra comments in the chat from Mark and Peter.
Right, yeah.
I can answer.
Go for it, Louise.
I can answer Peter's one. I'll come and have a look at Mark's in a minute. There's HMRC rules about membership, when membership and sponsorship is a donation and when it is a trade. And basically, I can't remember the exact figure, but it's something like, roughly speaking, if by becoming a member, somebody gets no real benefit other than something just like a newsletter or something of low value, under usually there's £25 is a kind of standard mark, then that's considered a donation to your organisation, not a trade. But if by becoming a member, they're getting access to something, or they're getting a discount, or they're getting an additional benefit, exclusive access to something like that, or benefits which are of higher value, then HMRC will consider it as a trade. It hits your VAT issues, it hits all the other issues. So there's a difference. And similarly with sponsorship, where if you're getting sponsorship from like local businesses and they're putting advertising on your kit, that is deemed to be a trade. If they are just giving a donation, and you just write up in the annual report, thanks for the donation or thanks for the sponsorship from this business, then that would be a donation. And it affects what tax they can reclaim on it, and it affects how you treat it as your income. There's quite comprehensive HMRC guidance on it, and we try and follow the HMRC guidance because we want also to help people understand where how they should be allocating things when they're looking at VAT and when they're looking at other things for trading. So I hope that answers that. And then Mark was saying, this is my position, limited by shares, which has... Okay. I think, Mark, if you want to have a chat or send in a question, I can... we're really happy to kind of try and answer that in detail, because I think we'd have to look that up. So I think we would go, and if you tell us the organisation, we can go and look on Companies House. We can tell you about eligibility and all that kind of stuff. Great.
Any other questions?
Cameron said, can we speak to someone to discuss organisation and trading ideas in more details? Not sure who the person is for that or the timeline given the holiday.
Yes, yes, it's, and that's something I was just going to come on to. There's a limited amount of support available through our email inbox over the next couple of weeks. I'll be checking that every few days, but you won't, yeah, we can't guarantee, obviously, that it'll be checked daily and that there'll be people on available to talk to throughout the next couple of weeks. Please do email us, put the email address here. And we'll do our best to try and speak to you this afternoon or tomorrow if you've got questions. But yeah, if you can send them in an email, then we'll get that answered for you. Let me just very quickly. But basically, if you can ask a question now, that's your best bet. If there's anything that you can ask now and we can answer right now, that would be great. Let me just very quickly go through the application process. There's not loads of details here. It's just to underline the deadline, 14th of January. So, you know, there is some time post the kind of Christmas and New Year's break where we'll be back around. There is actually another info session planned, I think the 7th of Jan. You know, if you do have other questions that you want to drop in for and ask, and obviously we'll be available in those first couple of weeks of Jan to answer questions and things. You know, we make an initial kind of assessment of applications, and we'll invite likely around 25 people to interview for each, or 25 enterprises to interview for each cohort, so for trade up and for scale up respectively. Those interviews will take place between the 10th and the 19th of February, so that kind of second week of February largely. And then we go through a quite extended selection and decision-making process, including our partners. So we have representatives of London Sport and et cetera, who will ultimately make the final decisions. And we just do our best to put you forward in the best light, everyone who's interviewed. Those decisions will be made in early March and the programme will start in late March. So that's just to give you an idea. And if you do need help with your application, there's extensive guidance notes and FAQs, which if you've submitted an expression of interest via our website, you should have received, but we'll send them out again after this session. There is that email address there that I've just put in the chat as well. Hopefully I've got that right. Yes. Please do let us know. And if there's, you know, if you do need additional support because of a language barrier or any additional needs, you know, we'll do whatever we can to support you with that. As I say, so there is a little bit of time at the other end of the Christmas break for us to kind of pick up questions and things, and I'll try and pick up what questions I can over the next couple of weeks, because I do appreciate people will be maybe using the time to work on applications. But yeah, I encourage you to get questions in now if you can. So I'll just give another few minutes if there are any more coming in. Brilliant. Well, I mean, if you've asked your questions and you've got the information you need and you want to drop off, thank you so much for coming. Good luck with your applications. You know, we really look forward to receiving them. It's so exciting to think of the organisations that might be in the room. If you want to stick around until there's fewer people and ask a question, you're welcome. I'll be here till 1. another 5 minutes or so.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Oh, of course.
There was at least eligible to apply 20,000, at least 20,000 it says, or the other price, the higher price.
Yeah.
If we get less than 20,000, would we still be eligible to apply?
So, only in exceptional circumstances. So, and that's your overall income. So that can be income from grants, through income from trading, contracts, sponsorship, anything like that. So, but if you're very close to that income bracket, we may still consider you, especially if you have really clear plans for growth and plans for trading. But yeah, that's a pretty good indication of where you need to be. Also for the program to be of benefit for you, and to be at the right stage as the rest of your cohort as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. And how about the education, coach, and development? Would that do these activities has to be only physical activities, or maybe book clubs or coaching and mentoring and?
No, so it does need to be physical activity and sport.
Physical. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions at all?
Can I ask, can you add into it, like at the end of the term, to take young people for incentive of like taking them for Chessington or something like that? Can you apply for that?
So for that, sorry, can I just ask a little bit more about, so that would be your kind of your end goal, your end impact in kind of taking young people for these experiences?
Yeah, the end of the term, like, end of the project or something, just an incentive, or the young people have worked really hard in their program that you want to give them like a kind of an incentive, take them for an outing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, as long as the program that they're involved in is increasing is around physical activity and sport, if that's part of the program, I don't think there's any restriction in you in you having a kind of celebration at the end of that program and having an outing for them. As long as you're basically, as long as you can demonstrate that the impact that you're having overall is increasing young people's access to physical activity, that's fine. If you want to do something nice for the kids at the end, great. Yeah, but the partners will be looking to show for entrepreneurs and enterprises to be able to show that they are increasing access to physical activity for young people. Does that answer your question, Maria? Have I understood?
I think it would be, just to clarify, I think it would be what we'd wanting to be seeing. We'd absolutely be fine if you were running a business and you were, and you did some incentive for young people at the end. That's great. But I don't think that the going to Chessington would be enough for the Go London partners in terms of it being physical activity in itself.
Yeah.
So I think that's, we're pretty flexible on the funding, but the physical activity needs to be kind of what you traditionally think of as sports, but it might also be yoga, walking, cycling, other things like that. But that's what we'd be looking, that's the physical activity. Going on an outing probably wouldn't be enough to convince Go London that would be a physical activity.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. The outing itself won't count as physical activity, but if these are kids that have been involved in a football camp or a multi-sports camp, and the end of that camp you're going to give them this great experience, absolutely fine. But the focus is that multi-sports camp that they've been on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Saul.
Thanks. On the application, do you have to just put down one activity that's going to try and generate money, generate a revenue stream, or can you put multiple plans? So, for instance, if we've got a pavilion in the close season, we want to add more events there, but we also want to do something on the cricket ground itself, like a tent or something like that. Do you put all of those ideas down in the application, or is it just a specific revenue stream that you're looking for?
No, yeah, I think
multiple revenue streams are fine. Absolutely great.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Was it Anne-Marie as well? Were you about to ask a question?
Yeah, it's probably already been asked already, but I just wanted to clarify whether there was a maximum turnover for the
No,
organisation in order to apply.
thanks. That is a really good question. There isn't an upper limit on turnover. Obviously, you know, for really large organisations who have already experienced significant growth, when we go through the assessment process, we may feel, you know, actually is the programme going to be as beneficial to them in terms of the capacity building programme as well, for that entrepreneur, you know, versus a smaller organisation who's, you know, maybe earlier on their growth or their scaling journey. However, as we were saying, you know, it may be an opportunity, particularly for larger organisations, to develop a member of staff who has strategic control over that trading area. So say you're a large organisation, you want to develop your cafe or something, your cafe manager, your business development manager for that trading area could be the one to come on the programme, and then and you know, so it'd be a development opportunity for them. So it's not to say that you're ineligible, but I'm just kind of being transparent about how some of the decisions will be made in terms of who will benefit most from the programme. Does that make sense, Anne-Marie?
No, that does, because we are developing like a cafe area or a social space or an event space. So we could use that to develop that individual and work on that space.
Yeah.
To then use that capital that's made to then reinvest into physical activity for the youth.
I mean, that sounds perfect. That's exactly what I've described. I'd love to hear that. Yeah. And yeah, obviously up to you who you think is best placed to be the applicant. So, but obviously we will say, as I said, I'm not sure if you were here earlier when I said this, but we do like to develop one person right through application to interview to coming onto the learning programme. So whoever you decide is best placed to do that within your organisation. And as Alexa was making the point again, sorry, not sure when you joined, but that whoever is coming onto the programme, it doesn't have to be the CEO or founder, especially for larger organizations, but they just need to have strategic control over that area of the, you know, that you're trying to build up the trading, basically. So obviously, yeah, leave it to you to decide who that might be, who the best person is.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Any more questions at all?
Yeah, hi Kate, it's Brandon here. It was me that was asking regarding you know, as we're currently an LTD company and we, you know, we do trading and we generate our own income. However, we are partners with a charity which we do funded stuff within the community. From my understanding, as being an LTD company, I'm not eligible, is that correct?
Is Alexa or Louise, as our grant managers, are you able to pick this up? So my understanding is that no, a limited company isn't eligible unless you have those specific clauses that we outlined.
Yes.
Lock and stuff. But have we had the situation before whether, so essentially is you're funding a charity or? No,
so we're partners with a charity called Edmund Community Partnerships, and they basically fund they basically fund us to deliver services to the children within the community. But this is on the funded aspect. However, we generate our own, which from my understanding, is that match trading, because I joined a bit late. So to my understanding, we have to generate our own income. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we want to support you to develop or grow an element of, you know, a source of traded income. So that could be, you know, it could be the sports work that you're already engaged in. It could be like selling that to schools, contracts, whatever, membership, or it could be a completely different area. So as Anne-Marie was just saying about building up a cafe and then those profits going to fund youth sport. But yeah, in terms of the organisation we're funding, that does need to be a not-for-profit organisation. Sorry, Alexa, I asked you to answer and then I jumped in.
Yeah, no, nothing to add there really. So if you are a company limited by guarantee who haven't added those clauses to your articles, that is something that you can do, but obviously we would, you know, recommend you getting advice on that, and we wouldn't want you to do that if that's not right for you just for a grant, but it might be something that's worth looking into if you're looking for grants generally.
Yeah, of course. So we're currently in the process of setting up our CIC, which will obviously support us to develop our LTD kind of company to generate, you know, stuff like that, but also give the young people within our community, to give them the opportunity to do physical sport out for free of charge, basically, and also give our young people that we're mentoring the opportunity to work, so they have like a sense of belonging as well. But that's in the process. If
Mm.
that was to be finished before the deadline, could I still apply it once the CIC is set up?
Yeah, because you would have we're not going to be particularly worried that although your CIC won't meet the criteria, you've got that track record as another legal structure. I'm not sure whether you heard that bit of the call, but we would count that as part of the kind of forgotten the word, requirements.
Yeah. And when Alexa says
Eligibility.
CIC not meeting the criteria, we're talking about the income criteria there. So obviously, were you to register the CIC and obviously get that registered by March when the program starts, the income would be 0 or whatever. But
Yeah.
obviously, we can take into account the income that you're already generating through your previous work. So in that respect, like, yeah, put those two pieces of the puzzle together, and you've got an eligible
Okay.
organisation.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for your help.
Cheers, Brandon. Any more questions at all? So it sounds like there aren't any more questions. As I say, please do email the Go London inbox, but please also do be aware that it will be a slower response time over the next couple of weeks. As I say, there's a couple of us around for the next couple of days. So if you can get a question in this afternoon, we'll do our best. But best of luck. And as I say, there is also time on the other side of that Christmas break. Deadline is 14th of Jan, so there's time on the other side of the Christmas break to kind of ask questions, and we'll have another info session as well, actually, even if you just want to drop in at the end and ask a question that's been on your mind. So yes, good luck. We'll circulate the recording after this session. We'll circulate the slides as well, and yeah, best of luck.